Good morning, everyone, and welcome, sports fans, to the second edition of Sports Memo Wager Talk. New show, family affair. We're making sports history, guys, as never before. On any panel has there been 4 family members contributing. This is just amazing. I'm honored to be here with, let's bring them on, with my wife, the First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico, Ralph Michaels, Jeff Michaels, his son. Guys, happy Friday to you both. TGIF, very quickly. Good morning, Dionne, Ralph, and Jeff. How is everybody today?
Doing good. I can't complain.
First day of college football, I'll tell you what. Penn State and Purdue going to the wire and the backyard brawl. A great opening Thursday of week 1.
It really is. You know, Ralph, you really hit the nail on the head. We've been waiting for months for college football to arrive. It is here. And what a great first few days to the college football campaign. Great stuff. Now, sports fans, before we got into a ton of free winners in the college football program, my good buddy Ralph Michaels has something special he'd like to tell you about. Ralph, the floor is yours, sir.
You know what, guys? We started a weekly program for the first few episodes of the show. We're going to continue it. And what it is basically this. If you retweet the show or if you comment on the show in the YouTube channel, we're going to draw one customer each week and you'll receive $100 in wager bucks. That's $25 for Joey D, $25 for Dionne, $25 for Jeff, all 3 at Sports Memo, and $25 for myself at Wager Talk. Because of the holiday this week, what we're going to do is we're going to wait until next week, draw 2 winners, one from the first week, one from this week. We'll reach out to you on Twitter or respond to your comment on YouTube TV, and we'll get in touch, get a free $100 in wager bucks just for following us. We appreciate it.
It's great stuff. Guys, I tell you, the customer appreciation you receive from Sports Memo and Wager Talk is unrivaled in this business, let alone any business. So be on the lookout for that because we're excited to reward you because we thank you for tuning in. Without any further ado, we have quite a bit in store for you today. 3 roundtable games, then our best bet segment. Let's go to our first roundtable game. Oh, you know what? No, you know what? We have a new feature. Excuse me, guys. We have a new feature. I'm so excited about today. Especially about Jeff, Ralph, and Dan. Got ahead of myself. We have a new feature. We're excited about it. Where each one of us can come up with an underdog money line play for you. We're going to put in a 4-teamer, and we walk it like we talk it. We're going to bet on ourselves. So let me get that graphic up on the board, guys, because I'm excited about this. We each have a money line underdog for college football. Let's go, first of all, to the First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico. She's going to tell you about her underlying money line underdog play. Dionne, take it away.
All right, thank you. So for my money line underdog, I don't normally judge a team from their last performance, but it's hard to dismiss that Tommy DeVito looks like he found a home at Illinois. Granted, Wyoming is not the toughest opponent in the world, but it's hard to overlook the Fighting Illini's 38-6 victory over the Cowboys last week. Running back Chase Brown, to me, is one of the most valuable ball carriers in the conference. He will get his yards here and move the chains. The Hoosiers head coach Tom Allen has yet to name his starting quarterback. He has 2 to choose from in Connor Bazelak and Jack Tuttle. Both talented quarterbacks. However, this team has too many holes to fill offensively. They were one of the last season's poorest squads against the spread, covering just 2 of their 12 outings. They have failed to cover the last 4 against conference opponents and the last 5 at home. On the other hand, Illinois is 4-0 ATS the last 4 on the road and 4-1 ATS the last 5 in conference play. I like the Fighting Illini to start the campaign off 2-0.
Great stuff from Dionne D'Amico. Guys, this is an incredible new feature. Let's go to Ralph Michaels. Ralph, tell us about your underdog moneyline release.
I first want to talk about the money line parlay and the thought of it. It's always nice to hit something big. You're betting a small amount. You see right now this money line parlay pays about 59 to 1. We're not telling you to bet the same on a money line parlay as you are on a best bet that you normally take. You have to break out the college football week into 15 seasons. When you're getting odds of 50 to 1 or 100 to 1, if you hit one time in that entire year, you're going to show a profit. So make a fun play, put a small piece away, be able to make sure you can withstand going 0-15 if we don't hit one with the odds of 50 to 1 or 100 to 1. It's not going to happen that often, But hey, if we hit 1 or 2, you're going to enjoy the hell out of this. Mine is going to be Boise, and this is an actual client play for me at Wager Talk. I released it +3, still +2.5. Again, this is the money line segment, though. I love fading a team that makes a 1-year jump. You look at Oregon State; they were 9-22 from 2018 to 2020, and then they went 7-6 last year. That's a great season for them. But they start slow under Smith. They're 0-4 straight up in ATS in their openers. And last year, they were a favorite 7 times, but they went 3-4 ATS with 4 outright upset losses. You look at Boise, you know the kind of dog they are. They, under a new head coach, won 4 of their last 5 games. They have an experienced 4th-year quarterback. They're 5-0 ATS as a dog the last 3 years with 4 outright upsets. Boise can slow the Oregon State rush attack. Boise to win outright.
Great stuff, Ralph Michaels, and great insight, betting insight from years of sports betting experience. Thank you, Ralph. Let's go to his son, Jeff Michaels. Jeff, can you tell us about your Underdog money line release, please?
Yeah, I'm looking at Cincinnati taking on Arkansas, and I think it's pretty pointed. I don't think Cincinnati is going to fall as much as everyone expects. We all know that they lost 3 big pieces on their offense in the draft, but they're 5-2 as a dog in non-conference games since 2017, and they found some big talent in some smaller conferences to replace those big pieces. I mean, 2 of those pieces came out of the MAC. They got a 3,000-yard passer in Ben Bryant that came out of Eastern Michigan that transferred over here. And they took the defensive player of the year in Ivan Pace out of the MAC as well. Not to mention, they added what is nearly a 1,000-yard receiver out of Hawaii to try and fill the shoes of Alec Pierce. And Cincinnati hasn't lost a game on the road since 2019. They're 17-5 straight up versus non-conference opponents under Fickell. And they're 11-5 ATS as an away dog since he's been the coach as well. And it's hard for them not to cover the spread and lose this game. So I still find that as a factor. You look at Arkansas, their defense is also kind of what I'm looking at, that they lost 4 of their top 5 tacklers and 6 out of their top 10 on defense. And you look back over the last 4 years, sure, they're an SEC team, so they're playing some good opponents. But they're a top 25 team, and they're 12-14 at home over the last 4 years. They're swinging under 500 at home in the place that you should be most comfortable. Cincinnati was a national championship contender last year, for obvious reason. And with the losses, they fell nearly 20 spots, and they still find themselves in the dog in this game. So I like Cincinnati taking the upset against Arkansas against the SEC here.
Great breakdown from Jeff Michaels. That's great stuff. Sports fans, for my Underdog money line release today, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. Let me tell you what I mean by that. You got to look for dogs that can win games outright, obviously. And in college football, there's an old rule of sports betting. Look at in-state rivalries. Well, NC State and East Carolina will renew an in-state rivalry where the 2 sides kick off their season Saturday. ECU comes off their best season in years, winning 7 games, and was supposed to go to a bowl, but unfortunately, due to a COVID outbreak, their game was canceled with Boston College. NC State ranks 13th in the nation, coming off a solid 9-3 finish, 9-3 campaign. I mean, they had a really good year. They've got all 4 starters returning on the offensive line and 10 returning starters on the defense. That was second in the nation against the pass this year. But these 2 teams and these 2 coaching staffs know each other very, very well. While the Wolfpack has the upper hand in recent years, the Pirates certainly come in here motivated and with a puncher's chance to win this game outright. I know it's a big line, but I'm going to give you some big value here, guys. If NC State does have a weakness, it's when they travel. 5-13 ATS slide, the last 18 on the road, by the way. An interesting side note, the home team is 5-1 against the number the last 6 in the series. That's why I'm taking East Carolina to win this game outright as a big woof, woof, doggy, doggy. You even hear my dogs in the background barking. I love this play. I love it. Guys, we're going to break. We're going to go over. We're going to do an overview of all the games that we released during the show at the end of the show. So if you missed something, have no fear. Now, without any further ado, guys, we got our first of 3 roundtable games. Let me bring that up for us. Our first of 3 roundtable games, Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Utah at Florida. The Utes are 3-51.5. Let's lead off this round with Ralph Michaels. Ralph, the floor is yours.
Well, I understand why there's so much love for Utah. But again, that love comes with pressure. Whittingham is 7-1-1 in road openers. You're talking a lot of people about Utah running the table, getting to the playoffs, and they deserve to. They had a great season, covered against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and the returning starters they have make them a power. But with that, you also have the pressure. An AP top 10, a team that has to go play an SEC team on the road. Yes, you have Cameron Rising. Yes, you have 17 returning starters. But last year, in that season, everyone is raving about, on the road, they went to USC, they got outgained. On the road, they went to Oregon State, they got outgained. On the road, they went to BYU, they got outgained. In a neutral game, in the bowl game at the Rose Bowl, they got outgained by almost 200 yards against Ohio State. Then you look at Florida. This is a disrespected team. Florida not in the rankings. Florida off that horrible season. You now have the situation where Anthony Richardson is your quarterback. You have a Florida team that has only been a home dog 3 times since 2018, going a perfect 3-0. I'm a Billy Napier fan, and yes, you only have 13 returning starters, but you look at the recruiting classes between these two teams, they have a plethora of talent to load them. I also like the DC change. Last year, they were a wreck. They were a team that quit on Todd Graham on the defensive end. I think just the stability the new coaching staff brings in this makes Florida a very live dog, or at least a reason. I'm not on Florida per se, but I certainly have enough reasons to not back Utah State as a favorite in the SEC.
Great stuff by Ralph Michaels. Let's go to his son, Jeff Michaels. You also know him as JM Sports over at Sports Memo. Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I do. Kyle Whittingham, 18th season. And I think one of the big things coming into this year, he's 11-4 in his bowl games, but they lost their 3rd straight bowl game. And sure, it was to Ohio State, who has one of the most explosive offenses still this season, which we'll talk about later. But, they ended the season 10-4, but that's after losing to their first 3 games. They had their best offense in their recent memory last year with 10 returning starters. And this year they get 8 back, which includes their first team Pac-12 quarterback, 2 of their top 4 rushers, and 5 of their top 6 receivers. But their defense does lose 4 of their top 5 tacklers, but they added some talent in the transfer portal too. They don't have a great record against the SEC. They're just 2-9 against those current teams, but they have won their last 2 meetings outright, and they're 4-1 against the spread. My dad mentioned they're 7-2 straight up in those road openers, where he's 7-1-1 against the spread. But they're also 26-5 against non-conference opponents dating back to 2013. But last season, they lost 3 of their 4 opportunities. My dad mentioned it too. I think Florida is one of the biggest potential underdogs this season and one of the most improved teams on the year in the long run. But their 13 returning starters means that they have to replace their quarterback, their 3 leading rushers, and 5 of their top 7 receivers. While their defense has 7 starters back, they do return 3 of their top 5. They've won 32 straight home openers. I'm leaning right where he's leaning. I think Utah probably has this game. I think Florida is one of the teams on the up and up that's looking to be one of the most improved teams on the season this year. So I have high expectations for them, but I think Utah can cover the spread in week 1 against an SEC opponent, which isn't something that they're used to.
Good stuff from Jeff Michaels. Guys, I'm going to be batting third on this roundtable game. My friends, there's a lot of hype, as Ralph and Jeff both mentioned, surrounding Billy Napier, Anthony Richardson, Montrell Johnson. Napier had a lot of success at Louisiana, 40-12 the last 4 years at the helm. The former Clemson and Bama assistant has one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the nation, and Anthony Richardson, looking to bring the Gators back to their former glory. Not only that, but he brought his own running back with him, Montrell Johnson, over as well, on a backfield that was already deep. He brought a guy on his own. Says a lot about Montrell Johnson. The problem is that they really have just 6 starters returning on a very intricate offense. That's what I feel. It's a very intricate offense. It's going to take this team a long time to learn it. And in gameplay, they're going to make some mistakes. The receiving corps is, at least for now, questionable, I feel. And let's face it, this is a team that's absolutely point spread poison. 0-4 ATS the last 4 games played at home. 0-7 ATS the last 7 games played overall By the way, they're also 0-7 ATS the last 7 games played against non-conference opponents. They have to line up against the number 7th ranked team in the nation, the Utah Utes. They have a good coaching staff, an offense loaded with playmakers, and a very, very tough defense. If you're worried about them playing in the swamp, don't be, because you know why? Utah's used to playing in a high altitude in a loud stadium with a ton of humidity. This is no change for them, guys. They're not going to be overwhelmed here. All right? Until Florida shows me they can start covering the spread, I'm going to go against them. I think it's a very tough matchup, but I put a lean on the Utes here, sports fans. All right, we got 3 of our 4 panelists on this first roundtable. Let's go to the First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico. Dionne, give us your take. Utah, Florida.
Yeah, the 3 of you completely hit everything that I saw in this game. So it really doesn't leave too much for me, but Utah, they're coming off one of the best seasons. They started 1-2, then went on to win 9 of their next 10 games. And then they crushed Oregon 38-10 in the Pac-12 championship. Florida, they had a disappointing 6-7 record last year. Their first-year head coach, Billy Napier, has his work cut out for him as he tries to rebuild his team. And as Joey did mention, if you recall, Napier is a former Clemson and Alabama assistant who went 40-12 the last 4 years at Louisiana. But neither of these teams is good in non-conference games. As the Utes, they're 1-6 ATS in their last 7, while the Gators are 0-7 ATS in the last 7. So I think this game here is a little bit kind of tough for me. It can go either way. So I'm going to go ahead and lay off this game.
The First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico, is laying off. And guys, I'll tell you, we talked about it last week. Ralph and I touched on it last week. I respect people that can stay away from a game as well. So I respect that. That's great stuff. Don't go anywhere. We've got 2 more roundtable games, our best bet segment, our second roundtable games, guys. It's a really interesting matchup. Notre Dame and Ohio State. I mean, talk about a TV game. Going off Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Buckeyes are 17, total 59. Let's go to Jeff Michaels leading off on this round.
I'm definitely excited for this one, and I think I can't be the only one. It has to be one of the most exciting matchups out of week 1. But Notre Dame ended last year 11-2, but their only 2 losses were against the only 2 top 10 opponents that they played last year. They dropped 1 to Cincinnati, and they lost to Oklahoma State. But in the last 4 years, they've been very good on the road. They're 15-2 over those 4 seasons. But the team shouldn't really be in question. They got one of the best receiving corps in the country, although it may not be one of the deepest. And they have one of the scariest tight end units behind Michael Mayer, without question. They bring back their old O-line coach, who definitely has a history of creating stars here. And their defense adds a first-team Big Ten safety to an already strong secondary, and a defense that returns 8 of their top 9 tacklers. But, their question mark comes at the quarterback position. Tyler Buckner appeared in 10 games last season, but he's one of just 16 Division I quarterbacks that are projected to start in week 1 that don't have any actual starting experience coming into this game. But Ohio State sits right there with them. They return 8 of their top 9 tacklers too. And both these teams rank in the top 15 in returning tackle percentage. And they're both full of NFL prospects. Ohio State had a bunch of losses in the draft, but they returned 3 of what could be the biggest pieces. Just hard to say after you see Olave and Wilson leave, but you got Smith and Jigba, Henderson in the backfield, and you got Stroud. But they have depth too. Even if they don't need it, they have 3 quarterbacks, they have 3 running backs that can play, and they have 10 wide receivers behind Smith and Jigba, 10 that were ranked in the top 15 in their recruiting class at the position. Since Ryan Day took over, they're 18-1 at home, 12-7 against the spread, and 14-4 against top 25 talent. They're just 5-7 against the spread in non-conference plays. The last 2 meetings between these 2 teams both came in the Fiesta Bowl. And Ohio State has won 6 out of their last 9 home openers, but they're just 3-6 against the spread in those games. I think Ohio State handles this one 10 to 14 points, but I find it hard to back a spread like this when Notre Dame has plenty of potential, and they're definitely a top 5 team for a reason. So 17-point spread between 2 top 5 teams is hard to back, in my opinion.
It might be hard to back, but I'll bet every dollar I have in my phone account that you'll be watching this game this weekend. Am I right, Jeff?
No question.
This is a college football lover's dream. Guys, I'm going to do my Derek Jeter impersonation and bat second this round. Second round table game. I feel most interesting matchup this weekend. We put together two of the most successful and storied schools in the history of college football. There's no doubt that Ohio State is a very good team. They're ranked number 2 in the preseason poll, and they're supposed to run away with one of the toughest conferences in the nation. However, Notre Dame comes in here 5th in the country. There's a lot of pressure on the Buckeyes to win and win right away. I'll put a pin in that. I'm coming back to that, guys. What concerns me about this team is their defense. We all know how we all know offensively they've got a couple of guys that are first rounders next year for sure. But I think we could all agree that over the last few years, their defense has slipped a bit. Sometimes not just giving up points to ranked opponents, but some unranked opponents as well. We've seen a leak in this. I'll tell you what. Last time there was a storm like this, Noah built himself a boat. I've seen a lot of leaks in this defense, and I think they're beatable. I didn't say they weren't going to go to the college football playoff. I think that at times against certain opposition, this team is beatable. And sometimes, a team like Notre Dame comes in here with confidence. They've got 7 starters returning on offense, 8 on defense. Reports are that new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, has got this team believing they could shut down just about any offense in the nation. The reports are solid coming out of South Bend, guys. I'll tell you that. I feel this is way too many points to give a game team like Notre Dame, who comes in here with a lot less pressure on them than to win than Ohio State. The Irish, 4-0 ATS, the last 4 on the road, 7-1. The last 8 versus non-conference, the last 8 non-conference games, 4-1-1 ATS, the last 6 versus the Big Ten, and 7-1 ATS, the last 8 overall. I may be Sicilian, but I'm all Irish in this game, sports fans. I'm going to take the points here, and I'm going to take it to the bank. Guys, let's go to I had to throw in something about being Sicilian, guys. You know me better. Guys, let's go to Dionne. Let's go to Dionne D'Amico, the first lady of Las Vegas. Dionne, give us your take on this game, because to me, to Jeff so far, this is one of the most exciting games on the board this week. We'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you and Jeff. To me, this is the most interesting game out there. We have 2 top 5 teams competing here, and there's a lot of pressure on both Notre Dame and Ohio State, with each hoping to use this game as a launching pad for a college playoff appearance. Most of the Buckeyes defense from last season's Rose Bowl winning team is back, and so is Heisman Trophy candidate C.J. Stroud, who threw for 4,435 yards with 44 touchdowns. The Fighting Irish, they also do have a ton of talent with 7 offensive and 8 defensive starters returning for new head coach Marcus Freeman. Ohio State is laying big numbers here, 17 points on Saturday's game. Granted, Ohio State will probably win this game, but they're just 1-4 ATS in their last 5 non-conference games. And like you, Joey, I'm Sicilian, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Fighting Irish plus the points in this one.
You got to love that. We didn't even plan that out, sports fans. That's great stuff. Let's go to Ralph Michaels. I'm interested to hear what Ralph has to say, because this is, once again, one of the most exciting games so far this college football campaign. Ralph, Notre Dame, Ohio State, it's all you, my friend.
Joe, I'm hoping that I'm not going to make you take an edible, because, Joe as a host has the job of having to go around the horn and who goes next. So I lost my connection. I came in, I bounced in a different spot, so now I'm really screwing him up. So let's see if we can remember the order for the next game, but we'll see what happens. Well, you know what? Jeff, Joe, Deanne, should we make it unanimous? No, I'm going to stand on my own. I am all over Ohio State. An AP number 5 ranking is a complete joke. You got some media guys that are going to read magazines and decide who they think should be there by what finished last year. You have a new coach for Notre Dame. You lose a 3,000-yard passer. You lose a 1,000-yard rusher. You lose your top receiver, and you lost another receiver in this round. You lose your punter. You lose your kicker. On the flip side, you take 2 quarterbacks in the NCAA. Ohio State is going to be in that group. You take 2 or 3 running backs in the entire NCAA. Ohio State's running back's going to be in that group. You take 2 wide receiver units in the entire NCAA, Ohio State's going to be in that group. You take 5 offensive line units, the top 5, Ohio State's going to be in that group. And you take the top 5 or 7 defensive line units, Ohio State's going to be in that group. Joe, I appreciate what you said of Ohio State's defense, because, boy, they've been one of the most underachieving units in the country the past couple years. But I do love Jim Knowles. If you remember last year in the bowl, Notre Dame looked pitiful against Oklahoma State. Why? Defensive coordinator Knowles completely shut him down. Knowles, now the DC of Ohio State. He has that with numerous number one talents. They're going to be much more aggressive. And yes, every DC, every August says we're going to be more aggressive. We're going to blitz more. We're going to get more sacks. But when you have the talent that Ohio State has with the talent that Jim Knowles brings to this defense, I believe him. I'm giving out Ohio State, and an actual client release for me is Ohio State -10 in the first half. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to jump out early. I think they're going to pressure Notre Dame early. I think you have a lot of unexperienced skill players for Notre Dame. I look for Ohio State to jump out, and I am behind the Buckeyes for a full game as well.
Great stuff. So we got 3 Irishmen and 1 non-Irishman. Sports fans, I'm just going to make one point, Ralph. I know Notre Dame lost a lot, but I lost my hair and I'm still good looking. That's all I'm saying, buddy. Guys, don't go anywhere. We have another roundtable game before our best bet segment. This is another interesting matchup, I feel, and I know you're going to feel the same way. Florida State at Louisiana State. Tigers are -3, total 51.5. Now, guys, I did not lose my place. I'm pretty good. Didn't even need an edible like Ralph suggested. I'm going to take over this first round, the leadoff spot here like Ricky Henderson in the first round of this game. And I do find that this is an interesting game. However, my opinion on this is iffy. Sports fans, I think there's way too many question marks surrounding LSU this season. Some new coaches, some new players at key positions. And reports are that there are some schemes, a lot of new schemes being implemented. And, you know, nobody knows exactly how this team, when they take the field, is going to adapt to those new schemes. To be honest with you, until I see this team, what this team's really about, I think it's a tough call for or against them. Obviously, Florida State blew away Duquesne 47-7 a week ago. But beating a team like Duquesne is like being the smartest guy in special ed. It doesn't mean anything, guys. I'll tell you that. So having said all that, I'm going to leave this game up to my fellow panelists, and I know they've got some great opinions on it. So I have no opinion on it. And like we said earlier, you know, if I don't have an opinion, if one of our other panelists don't have an opinion, hey, that's great. You're always going to get an opinion on every game we have by a couple of great documented winners here at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. So I'm going to go. I'm relinquishing my opinion on this. No opinion. Let's go over the First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico. I think she does have an opinion on this game, and I just noticed she's wearing BYU garb. We got to talk about that later, honey. But it's all you. Florida State, LSU, Tigers are 351.5. Please take it away.
Yeah. So last season, LSU just went 6-7, but the Tigers revamped their offensive line, and they possess a top defense. Keeping it very close to the vest, head coach Brian Kelly knows who his starting quarterback will be, but he has yet to officially announce it. Florida State, on the other hand, already has a win underneath their belt. They crushed Duquesne 47-7, where they had 3 Seminoles run for over 100 yards. But Duquesne is no LSU. The FSU offense and defense, they're going to have it's going to be a much tougher game for them this week against LSU. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Tigers in this one.
First Lady of Las Vegas taking the Tigers in a third round table game. Let's keep going on and on. Let's go to Ralph Michaels. Ralph, Florida State, LSU, big rivalry. Tigers 51.5.
Dionne, I'm glad you mentioned game under belt, or sometimes you just read Gub when people are writing it out. If you follow me on Twitter at CalSportsLV, you'll know that earlier this week I tweeted out, yes, it makes total sense that teams that played week 0 and then play week 1 should have an advantage because they have a game under their belt. Going back in the last 10 years, though, those teams have had a game advantage like Florida State have covered 41% of the time. It's not the positive that you think. Now, why is the reason of that? Perhaps a line adjustment by Vegas. Perhaps number 2, and I think most importantly, is the team that is prepping for Florida State has an entire week to look at that film, watch the game film, watch the plays, watch the blocking schemes, while the team that has a game under the belt had to prep for a team before this team and now has no game film. So that's just one thought. With that said, you know, LSU off their first losing season since 1999. A new coach, a new QB, only one returning offensive lineman starter. And while he hasn't named his starter, I have to believe it's Jaden Daniels, the transfer from Arizona State. But what does concern me is this. You have three quarterbacks that were fighting for the job in August. Yes, he picked the starter. Yes, he knows the starter. And yes, he's not naming the starter. But those three quarterbacks still had to split reps. So you have a brand new offensive line with three quarterbacks sharing number one reps to try to win the job. I also don't like when you have three quarterbacks fighting for a job. Quarterbacks tend to be looking over their shoulder. Might they get yanked if they make a mistake? While I'm not high on Florida State, I will say this. They have 6 underclassmen on their offense starting. So beating Duquesne might not be a positive as far as public eye is concerned, but it does give a very good young team the ability to say, okay, we already played one game. We've been hit. We've been tackled. We haven't lost fumbles. They had 3 rushers rush for 100 yards. So all of them do have some experience. But with the offensive lines both being questionable, both defenses lines being much better, I'm going to lean with the under here. I like a lower scoring game. And again, I think being in the Superdome, it's neutral, yes, but it's really a 2.5 point edge for LSU because these players are very excited to go down to New Orleans where the Saints play. Many Louisiana kids. So home field edge, I give 2.5 to LSU. Breaking down the game in the final determination, I'm going under the total.
I don't think we can hear you.
My apologies, guys. I even mute myself sometimes. My voice is so annoying. Sports fans, Ralph Michaels says he likes the under, Florida State, LSU. Great stuff by Ralph Michaels. Let's go on over to Jeff. Jeff, I know you have an opinion on this game, correct?
Yeah, I do. You know, I think I'm leaning more with that total too, and I like the under. But I did look. It was kind of interesting to me that you think about the fact that Florida State has now opened consecutive seasons against Brian Kelly. Last year, Florida State opened against Notre Dame, and they blew an 18-point fourth quarter lead, but ended up pulling out the win in overtime to get a 3-point win, in OT. And LSU is just 2-7 straight up against Florida State, with Florida State taking the last 4 meetings and covering 3 out of 4 of those. And Florida State returns 16 starters, including 6 of their top 7 receivers and their leading rusher. And they had some big name transfers out of Oregon and some SEC talent. But, you know, LSU, as we've mentioned before, has some question marks at quarterback. They lose both of their leading rushers. They do keep their leading receiver, keep their leading 5 receivers. And on defense, most of their focus is going to be on the transfers that they brought in, kind of rebuilding that defense. You know, I don't have a whole lot of faith backing LSU in season openers. They've dropped back openers by double-digit points as a favorite in both opportunities. They lost by 10 as a 16.5-point favorite versus Mississippi State in 2020. And last year they lost by 11 as a 2.5-point favorite against UCLA. They were just 6-7 last year, and they have potential, and they obviously have a coaching staff that has potential too. But see how quickly they can turn things around. I don't think either one of these offenses will be able to get things going enough to go over this total in LSU's first game, Florida State's second game of the season.
Great stuff from Jeff Michaels. Thank you, Jeff. Now, guys, the most exciting portion of the show is about to take place, our best bet segment. Let's go right on over to the First Lady of Las Vegas. Now, she finished college football last season, number 2 over at Sports Memo. She has some exciting things she'd like to tell you about on the premium side, and she has a best bet for you. Take it away, Dionne D'Amico.
Thank you. Yes, as you did mention, I did finish last season number 2 in college football, and I am really excited that, you know, football is back. It's one of my favorite sports, and I am so looking forward to this season. As far as the games for the weekend, I will have all of my plays loaded today by the afternoon, so make sure you come back to the website and check out those games. For my best bet today, in my opinion, one of the biggest mismatches on the board this weekend is definitely between the Arizona Wildcats and the San Diego State Aztecs. Arizona has been a disappointment for years now. They are on a 1-23 straight up run and have huge problems both on defense and offense. Traditionally, San Diego State is known to have a very strong rushing attack and a ferocious stop unit. They just added quarterback Braxton Burmeister and should have a pretty darn good passing attack as well. To add to their motivation, they will start the campaign in their new Snapdragon Stadium. If you recall a season ago, the Aztecs were 2-0 against the Pac-12, which included a 38-14 victory over the Wildcats. They have done very well against this conference, covering 6 of the last 8 against them. There is just no way on either side of the ball Arizona can compete here. Under a touchdown here is a gift, so I'm going to go ahead and take San Diego State.
Sports fans, the First Lady of Las Vegas, Dionne D'Amico, says San Diego State. Great breakdown, guys. Guys, our next guest on the Best Bet segment, you know him for his great stats. You know him for his great tweets with all those stats, and he's a Wager Talk leaderboard fixture, Ralph Michaels. Ralph is doing some great work. He's going to tell you what he's excited about on the premium side, and he's got a best bet for you. Take it away, Ralph.
I have 8 college football plays loaded already for tomorrow. I do have a 5% plays, 35-11 the last 46. Grab it now. Head over to wagertalk.com. Great time to get a 3-day, 7-day, or a monthly package. I'm going to get on the block. I am going to go with James Madison minus the points against Middle Tennessee. You know, moving up to the FBS is not what it used to be. The scholarship difference is 12 from 75 to the low 60s for an FBS team. And this James Madison was a monster FCS team, top team offense, top team defense, multiple years. Last year, they played 19 games. They played an 8-game spring season. They played 21 games, an 8-game spring season and a 13-game regular season, making it to the playoffs. You have a coach that's 33-5. They are excited. And, you know, Middle Tennessee State, Stockstill's been there forever. I think he's the 3rd or 4th tenured coach in college football. And you have Chase Cunningham, who made 5 starts last year, but you're starting a new offense and you're starting an air raid offense. They brought in a new OC. They completely are changing their offense. And I'm not a fan of a team that has a new pass offense going on the road for the first time. James Madison Stadium will be loud. I think they get the job done. I have them power ranked multiple points higher, plus the home edge. 33-5 is their record under their current head coach. And yes, it's FCS teams for the most part, but James Madison has gone 17-4 as a home favorite in the 3 years under this coach. So when they do have a lead, they will not be afraid to try to extend that lead late in the game.
Sports fans, Ralph Michaels over at Wager Talk, one of the sharpest guys and one of the best analysts in this business. Thank you, Ralph. You can find all of his winners over at Wager Talk. We appreciate that. Let's go over to Jeff Michaels. You know, guys, Jeff is one of the brightest young minds in sports betting today, and he walk like he talking all over the Sports Memo leaderboard. Jeff's got some things he'd like to tell you about on the premium side over the weekend, and he's got another best bet winner for you. Jeff, the floor is yours.
I do. Over the next 2 days, I have some big options up for you on Sports Memo. I got a big 2-pack of plays tonight, on the Diamond, including a 5% game along with another 4% size play, and my $2 Tuesday play, which was a 5% college football week 1 play going tomorrow, is still up and available. Just behind Dionne, I ended 4th in college football last season on Sports Memo, but still an impressive record and run to show for it. Rest of my college football action will be going up tonight, but this best bet is going to be one of them, and you can get it now here. And I like Southern Miss taking down Liberty, getting the 3.5 points, but I may even look for something on the money line here. I mean, Liberty lost what seemingly is their entire offense last year in Malik Willis. They do get a transfer out of Baylor that has ran a similar offense, but not playing with quite the same talent that he was out there. And it still takes a transition period to get used to speeding up his play and getting the ball out of his hand even faster. And this Southern Miss team last year had some devastating injuries to the point that they had 2 running backs splitting time at quarterback to end the year last year, one of which was Frank Gore Jr. But now the returning experience that they have is hard to question. I mean, Ty Keys was supposed to be their quarterback last year, who got hurt early in the season, is going to be starting again this season, but they have plenty of other guys who have proven behind themselves. They have 9 returning starters on offense, which includes all 7 of their leading rushers, all 6 of their leading passers, 5 of which threw for at least 1 touchdown and had a QBR of at least 99. and 4 of their top 5 receivers, not to mention their defense returns all 10 of their leading tacklers. This defense last year allowed 30 touchdowns, but you take out the game that they played against Alabama, and this team allowed just 23 touchdowns in the other 11 games. That's just 2 per game, just over 2 per game when you take 7 touchdowns that Alabama put up on them. And their biggest concern last season obviously was injury, but that leads into depth because more than anything, this Southern Miss team was in nearly every game that they played going into the halftime, and coming into the second half, they just seemingly ran out of gas because they didn't have the depth to rotate, and 10 SEC transfers is definitely going to be something that's going to help your depth. Their offense is vastly improved, and their defense is looking much stronger. And if their O-line is even just a little bit better than they were last year, that's going to help them set the pace of play that they want to play at and be able to control the pace of this game and control this game in a whole. So I like Southern Miss. Give me those 3.5 points, but I may take a peek at that money line too, like I said.
Gotta love Jeff Michaels doing great work over at Sports Memories like Southern Miss. You're going to take a peek. He said the money line. Go follow Jeff over at Sports Memory after the show. Great customer appreciation discounts. Now, guys, it's time for me to take the floor. So lower the volumes, guys, because I'm very excited. Over the years, I'm documented 13 top 3s and several number 1s in college football, and yet I have yet to officially release a play in college football. You know what? That's all changing today. Right after the show, all of my college football winning information will be posted over at Sports Memo. And I'm going to tell you now, I've got a couple, at least 1, maybe 2, 5% plays. And we both know the best big game hunter on the planet. You follow him with those 5% plays. Together, we're going to hunt, stalk, and kill your book right after the show. Sports Memo, Joe D's plays are all going up. I wanted to make sure we could benefit from these lines and the line movements. And trust me, they're in our favor right now. They're going up right after the show. For my best bet on the Family Affair show, I'm going to go with one of the best teams in the nation, the Clemson Tigers. This is a team a season ago that went 6-2 in the ACC, 10-3 overall, ending their campaign with a win over Iowa State in the Cheez-It Bowl. They've got a great coaching staff, a great quarterback, another year experience under his belt, and from what reports are saying, one of the most ferocious defenses in the nation. This is a team that was in a rebuilding year a season ago, and yet they still finished 10-3. I think that's just amazing. What most impressed me about this team last year was the fact that they closed out the campaign with 6 consecutive wins, not to mention 5 covers in those 6 wins. Just impressive. We started getting paid as they started getting better, and they're even better this season, guys. They must come out here and begin the campaign making a statement, not just to the rest of the conference, but to the rest of the nation. This is a team to be reckoned with, and they're going to make a statement here in their season opener and crush Georgia Tech. They've had this game circled and on the schedule since the schedule came out. You know why? Because last year they beat them 14-8. It was the lowest margin of victory they've had in a while. Dabo Swinney likes to make teams pay for stuff like this, guys. They'll make them pay for it here. FYI, Georgia Tech on a 1-7 ATS run. This game is going to get ugly. Mark my word, not only does Clemson win, they cover. I'm not in the fashion of putting up 3+ touchdown favorites on opening weekend. But I'll tell you what, I wanted you to start off with the winner, and this is it. Clemson, take them to the bank. Guys, let's bring everybody back on. We've got a couple of announcements, and then we're going to run down the plays, and then we're going to sign off. My good friend Ralph Michaels is going to tell you once again what we're offering as far as wager bucks. Ralph, will you take the floor, please?
Again, guys, we appreciate you viewing. We appreciate you watching. We enjoy your comments, good or bad. Don't worry about it. We're here to make the show better. So positive or negative criticisms, we handle them just as well. $25 free wager bucks from all 4 cappers. That's $100 total just for retweeting or commenting on YouTube. We'll be picking 2 people this week. We'll reach out to you on Twitter, or we'll respond to your comment section, and we'll announce the winners next week. Thank you again for following big Week 1 college football. Check me out, wagertalk.com.
Great stuff. Thank you, Ralph. Guys, the customer appreciation you receive from Wager Talk and Sports Memo is unrivaled. Guys, we want to make sure you're happy. Now, let's run down our Underdog money line parlay, our best bets, and let's head on out of here so you can get down on all these free winners. Each one of us, Ralph, Jeff, Dionne, and myself, came in with an underdog money line parlay. Okay. First, Cincinnati, plus 210. Boise State, plus 115. Illinois, plus 110. East Carolina, plus 330. A $100 wager on a 14 money line parlay will bring back $5,118.50. And by the way, when we hit this, you can send each one of us a beer or something because we deserve it. We certainly deserve it. Let's run down our best bets for today. The lovely First Lady of Las Vegas' best bet, San Diego State minus the 6. Ralph Michaels came in with James Madison plus the 6. I'm sorry, minus the 6. My bad. I apologize. Ralph Michaels came in with James Madison minus the 6. Jeff Michaels comes in with Southern Miss plus 3.5. And your host, Joe D'Amico, comes in with Clemson minus 22.5. My friends, it's about that time to take off out of here. We want you to tune in every single week to the Family Affair Show. Trust me, we're going to come at you every Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. But you can watch the show later, so no fear. If you can't watch it live, you can always go to the Sports Memo YouTube channel. You can always watch it on Twitter. It's going to be out there. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we're going to give you a lot of great content. My friends, on behalf of the family, Sports Memo, Wager Talk, guys, this is Joe D'Amico. Good luck and have a winning day.